Welcome back to the Dad and Buried podcast. This week we're going to be talking about city living, city parenting, and parenting in the burbs.
City mouse, country mouse.
Well, we'll do a little talk about country and rural burbs. Rural juror.
The rural juror.
Did you watch that show? 30 Rock?
Yeah, of course. It was great.
So before we get into it, I want to remind everybody to support us on Patreon. Join our first 3 patrons, David Tuttle, Phil Mansfield. We're both in the absentee father tier,
yeah.
and Barbara Geiger, who is the dad bod tier. And I'm wearing, if you see me on YouTube, I'm wearing a dad bod shirt, courtesy of my friends at The Dad.
These are our true patrons. They are sponsoring this show, so thank you very much.
Couldn't do
really
it. You know what?
it.
That handful of dollars we're getting from you guys is really...
We love it.
If I had a cat, I'd probably buy some cat food.
But not this week.
I don't have a cat. I like cats, though.
Well...
I'm a big fan.
Schrodinger's cat.
I'm a big fan. So you can support us on Patreon or on Anchor. You know, I don't care. Doesn't matter where you want to give us money. Either one of those works.
But
right?
we very much appreciate it, and we love you guys. So thank you for doing that.
And you can listen to us every episode on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. Stitcher. I like to say that word.
Yeah.
Stitcher. All of them. You can comment on specific episodes on YouTube. You can subscribe there.
Yep.
If you want to see, sometimes when I wear my headband, I know that's a real crowd pleaser. People want to turn out for that. We'll let you know in advance maybe next time.
Yeah.
Here comes the headband.
And maybe if you wear like those really short running shorts.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
I might wear a hat, like a mesh half shirt, like Doug Flutie.
Yes.
Mesh half shirt.
That would be great.
He went to my alma mater, guys. Doug Flutie loves girls. That's how they explained. There's a quad. Doug Flutie loves girls. Devlin, Fulton, Lyons, and Gasson, and that's how you remembered back then. They probably don't do that anymore.
Wow.
All right.
Useless piece of information.
We'll get into that.
Okay. Great.
But when we come back.
Sounds good.
In a minute.
Brilliant.
As promised, we're going to get into this city parenting versus suburban parenting mess. I have some opinions.
Ooh,
I grew up in the burbs.
Can't wait to hear.
But I've only had kids in the city.
And I grew up in the city. So look at us.
I grew up in England, so I don't know how much you're really going to be able to add to this.
There's plenty of cities in England, I think you'll find. It's Nout, but field and cities, which is weird.
Nout?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Okay, so it's funny because 2 podcasts ago, we had bedtime.
It's been such a ride.
Yeah, it has been a wild ride. We talked about getting our lovely, lovely spawn to bed.
To sleep,
and what a goddamn
hell of
nightmare.
bedtime.
So I was listening to the Stuff You Should Know podcast, which is a great podcast. So I recommend it highly. And they were talking about the Sandman. And what the origins of the Sandman,
like you put sand in your eyes.
Yeah, like the
Enter
crust.
Sandman.
Exactly.
Mr. Sandman.
They brought all of this up. Wow, look at you. Are you moonlighting? Okay. So the best part is that the origin of the Sandman was to get these little fucking kids to go to bed.
Right.
And the way to do it is, and so basically it started in around the time.
Say when.
Around the time of the founding of this country, so 1775, 1776. Basically, there was this guy E.T.A. Hoffman, who was this German, and he wrote something called the.
Are you the Sandman? Because I'm starting to fall asleep.
Okay, good. Called Der Sandman. Yeah, and then they would play me talking to their
Der
kids.
Sandman. So it's a German.
Exactly.
German
That's
fellow.
What I just said. So
I wasn't listening.
I know. So basically, he says. This is the charming part. So the way, in order to get these goddamn kids to go to sleep in the 1700s,
because kids sucked back then.
Yeah, turns out.
Guess what? They didn't need a fucking iPad to be a dick.
Nope.
Right?
But guess what? It's like, hey, if you don't close your goddamn eyes, here's what's gonna happen. Der Sandman's gonna show up. He's gonna throw sand in the eyes of the children who don't sleep. And if you...
Is that it?
Yeah, no, if that happens, if your eyes are awake, he'll
so he throws them to test.
Yeah, and he'll take them out.
Okay.
He'll take your goddamn eyeballs out.
Yeah.
And then he'll take them to the moon and feed them to his kids.
To the moon?
Yeah.
Is that real? Mm-hmm. Is where Der Sandman is from?
To the moon.
And he has kids. You think he would know how painful that would be to have somebody rip your kid's eyeballs out? You know, have a little empathy, Der Sandman.
What do you? Where you're all over the? No, we're pro Der Sandman.
Individual.
We're pro Der Sandman.
Oh, we're pro
him.
I'm
we
sorry.
want him.
I love that guy.
Get your goddamn eyes closed, nice and tight. because Sandman's coming this way.
Okay, but okay.
And then eventually it morphed into like, bring me a sweet dream, you know, and all this.
Send me a dream.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and not like throw sand.
So
in
here's
your
a question
eyes
for you.
and eat
So,
my eyeballs.
say I imagine Santa Claus was already around back then. Yeah, he's been around for centuries. Yeah. Wait, Coca-Cola invented him. Sorry, I forgot.
Good call.
But like once a kid figures out that Santa is actually your dad bringing the gifts down, does he then also figure out that Sandman is your dad who's going to rip my eyeballs out?
I think pretty much
scared of daddy. More so.
I think into the 1800s, kids probably wised up and was like, actually, I think you're probably full of shit, and there is no monster that's going to rip my eyes out.
You're giving kids a lot of credit. I mean, they still believe in a lot of stuff. They believe in Slender Man.
That's true.
And the Momo Challenge, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
I happen to actually believe in the Momo.
Oh, do you?
So, yeah.
You do? We should browse YouTube later and see what happens.
That would be great. Or chat roulette. And just see, literally just see what happens.
Just see. I have a pretty good guess of what's going to happen.
It's casual. Only if you want
Not that I know anything about it.
We don't have to do it. I mean, it's fine.
Anyway, so now that I think with the birth of the industrial age is what you were saying.
Yeah, that's. And I want to bring it back to that.
And children and their families moving into the city. That was when kind of Sandman faded away. That's the segue.
yeah, exactly. Because they had to wake up to get their goddamn hands on those cotton mills.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cotton gins.
So Pete and I, we wanted to talk about parenting in the city versus parenting the burbs this week. And as I said at the top, we both live in the city currently. Mm-hmm. I've never had kids in the burbs. Mm-hmm. That anyone knows of.
That was a great joke.
Right, thank you.
No one was.
But I grew up in the burbs, so I know what it's like. I have family still there.
Yeah.
We were recently in Connecticut visiting my parents for my mom's birthday, and my brother is there and his wife, and they have a child, and we're often arguing about life in the city versus life in the burbs.
Okay.
But they've never experienced life in the city, right? So like. To my end, it's like you wouldn't necessarily, you don't know what you're missing, right? There are some pros and cons to both sides.
Or, as I probably think it goes, you don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Sometimes when we get a buzz on, we do get angry at each other.
Get me out of this headlock.
They don't understand why we live in the city. So I thought, maybe we could use this podcast to explain to everybody why the city's better.
Let's do it.
Right? Because we got a lot of feedback from people who both agree and disagree.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree and disagree.
All right, well let's break it. Why don't we do suburbs first, and then we'll go to the city and we'll do.
So what we're gonna do? What are the pros and cons of the burbs?
Sure.
So I grew up outside of New Haven in something I like to call the O Range, Orange, Connecticut. I don't think anyone calls it the O Range.
No, I don't think so.
I think it should. It's gonna happen. Just like I call Manhattan the Hat. That hasn't been picked up on yet, but soon.
Yeah, I think everyone's pretty much waiting for you to leave the city.
Yeah,
so that we can collectively breathe.
Could happen, depending on where my next job is.
Ooh, yeah, good call.
Knock on wood. Hopefully, I'll get a new job, and that might happen because before I had kids, I never envisioned, and I've lived in cities for 20 years, and before I had kids, I never envisioned raising my kids in the city. I always thought, I'll get it out when I'm in my 20s or whatever, and then I'll go move.
Oh, really? You had it kind of...
No, I didn't have it mapped out. I think that's just how I imagined.
Yeah, okay.
Just because I grew up in them, and I felt like I'd come back to them and want my kids to have a yard and all that stuff. But we have found that we love the convenience of the city and all that it has to offer at your fingertips.
Yeah.
It's just a couple of steps down the road.
Yeah.
We don't have a backyard, but we have Prospect Park in Brooklyn near where I live, and Plenty of Park, Central Park. You want to check that out?
Yeah.
Run a couple laps, right?
Just a couple laps.
Because you said you made a couple of jokes on here where you're like, there's no grass in the city, and that's obviously untrue.
Well, I guess...
There's plenty of grass. Yeah. Of several kinds.
Yeah, big time. I'm talking park grass.
Oh, okay. Park grass.
I never grew up in the suburbs. I only grew up in the city. I grew up in London. But
like London proper, like Oliver Twist.
Yeah, I grew up like Oliver Twist. Hello, governor. Would you like me to clean your chimney?
Did you have an English accent when you were growing
up? Not really, but it was more just word choice. Like he'd be like, "Oh, come on."
Yeah, well, you grew up in London, no wonder you're so pretentious.
That's actually one of the things that they train you in.
Yeah.
They're like, not pretentious enough. And you're like, sorry, sir.
They have pretentious class?
Yes, they definitely do.
Snobbery 101.
Yeah, and then of course there's the lager lout, which is like, oh mate, and then you're like, okay, got it. You mix it.
So, but you never lived like out in the fields or whatever happens in London?
No. There's London's a really big sprawling
I've
city.
never been. I'd love to go. My wife thinks I would like it.
It's really beautiful. It's unbelievably expensive, so there's no reason to stay.
Yeah, well, it's pretty expensive in New York. That's one of the arguments I have with my
It's
brother.
actually not even comparable. Like London is more expensive.
Everybody calm down.
Well, I think really it's way more
Well, that's
expensive.
one of the things people say is living in the city is very expensive and raising kids. Somebody mentioned, who was it? This was probably my... somebody mentioned how expensive like daycare is in the city versus like, if you live out in the farms... You can like leave the kid in the barn. I don't know what goes on farms.
Yeah, is that? Wow.
I don't know. I've seen Babe. All the animals seem very friendly.
In O-Range,
it's
Connecticut?
the O-Range.
Okay. All right. Well, so so we're kind of drifting into the city, but I want to stay in the suburbs. So what was your suburban raising?
It was like E.T. It was like
great?
riding bikes
Fun?
around everywhere. It was so fucking fun. No helmets back then, but we used to drive.
No OSHA.
So I lived in a nice little town that didn't really have. I was near another town that had a little bit more shopping area, like right near where I was. You'd have to ride our bikes on like busy streets down the bike lane, down this huge hill, across the fucking borderline highway, and then hang out in like the Caldor parking lot.
Yep.
And the Clarides was the
beautiful.
grocery store. And that's where I bought Metallica's Black Album, which has Enter Sandman on it. I rode my bike down there.
Ah, nice.
And bought that. I bought Smells Like Teen Spirit. I think I bought the single.
Are you gonna list everything you bought in your childhood?
I'm just saying, like, and so a couple of people mentioned this that, well, somebody said the Burbs are incredible. Open fields everywhere. What?
Yeah, that sounds like
it doesn't
country.
really. Open fields everywhere is not quite the Burbs unless the fields are full of Walmarts,
right?
Which is one of the things that I do when I go back to Connecticut because they don't have them around here.
Yeah.
But they have that kind of shit. But we rode our bikes everywhere. You're hanging out in your friends' yards.
Yeah, you go neighbor to neighbor. You kind of do that. My brother lives in Connecticut, and that's the big thing. He lives kind of on a cul-de-sac, and the kids just like they migrate like birds. They just well, go from house to house. It's kind of cool.
So somebody said that they like that the kids can play safely in the neighborhood. This was Recycle Beauty said. I like that kids can play safely in the neighborhood, but I don't like that there are packs of kids all over the neighborhood loitering. What is this? Fucking apocalypse?
Yeah. Yeah.
Lord of the Flies on the cul-de-sac?
Most of them are playing Pokemon Go.
But everybody says, it's the neighborhood, it's the community, right? Which I certainly had growing up. Like everybody gathers at the same bus stop.
Right.
We had a path that we carved behind like 4 or 5 houses in the neighborhood where it was like paved out for not paved, but like cleared out for bikes to ride through and connect everybody. We had one family whose parents, when the kids had to come home for dinner, would just step out on their deck and ring a big bell.
Oh, they literally
rang a bell. It was very demeaning. Dong! Oh shit, Anthony's gotta go home.
Yeah.
We gotta stop playing stickball.
Why was it demeaning? It sounds like a.
You're like a dog. What are you, a fucking dog?
Versus what? Anthony, get your fucking ass back home.
Well, no. Maybe the kid should be responsible enough to know. Wear your watch, Anthony.
Okay.
How about that?
Well, maybe.
But I'm saying it's wide open, and you can't be quite as free in the city with that because you're scared of all like the. There's a lot of scary people in the city, or so it goes. Well, that's what people think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is really what has changed. I think the cities in general have become a lot safer than when they were back when in the 80s and the 90s.
Maybe I guess depending on the city.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly the neighborhoods we live in are much safer than they were.
Yeah, I don't really have any concerns, right? Do you?
Right, and I think that was a big concern, and also. The one thing that I have is that there's a lot of meth in the suburbs. In the Burbs, you're saying there's meth? Yeah, I think there's like a lot of meth. Yeah, I can tell you right now, there's not a shortage of meth in the cities either. Yeah, I just... if you need some meth, just let me know. I fucking know where plenty of it is. Really? Nope. Okay. Because actually, I'm just feeling a little itchy. We just need something to take the edge off. You have too many teeth. I do. You know, that's the stereotype of the meth head. The problem is I don't have enough open sores on my face. So I watched Breaking Bad. That was all about meth. They don't do a lot of city stuff in that, right? It's in Albuquerque, but they're never like it's in the suburbs. They're on the Burbs. I mean, look, I'm parenting. Obviously, doing a great job of it too. Obviously, I'm generalizing now, but I think that my association with the suburbs, having never lived there, so this is basically the asshole's opinion, is that like when you started to get into your 12, 13 teenage years, you'd start to look for things that were more and more
you want to step outside your bubble a little bit.
Whereas in the city, when you're 13, taking the subway and doing like all, take by yourself, going to, Manhattan, coming back into Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like there's enough of challenges there where you don't necessarily aren't looking to score meth.
So a couple of people said that, like Candace's mouse said what she likes about the Burbs is there's fewer people, it's quieter, and there's more parking. Now, so we lived in Brooklyn for 5 years.
I do like the more parking part.
We lived in Brooklyn for 5 years without a car, and then we moved to Raleigh for a year and a half and had to get a car there because Raleigh's not really a city. It's you have to drive everywhere. There's no real centralized downtown. It's kind of small. It's liberal and stuff, which I was a little worried about before we moved, but that wasn't the issue. The issue was that the CVS closed at 1 o'clock on Saturday and didn't open until Monday. This is the downtown Raleigh CVS. When I noticed that, I was like, oh shit. So we were only there for like 16 months. And we realized there that like we didn't like the more suburban lifestyle.
Right.
Having to drive everywhere, and people say that too, like they love the city because you can walk, which is one of the things we love about it. But you drive everywhere. It's one of the reasons America's so fat. We drive too much.
You really wanted to. It seems like you were building up to that.
That was my punchline. America's still fat. That's the next word.
This obesity epidemic that we're in.
It's coming up in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
And people say it's comforting to have a community, but you can have a community in the city.
Yeah, so that's, I think, goes
just check your wife's Instagram. It's all about her community.
That's correct. She loves posting about.
She's very invested.
She loves the kids
and meteorology.
Strange.
We've talked about before. She fucking loves weather reports.
Everything to do with the weather is
and Brooklyn. Those are her two favorite things.
And so, but the cities are safer now, and so
do you have statistics?
Yeah, there's all sorts of statistics. It's like
let's see
crime rates per capita. They're all way down. Well, let's see them. I don't have them. I mean, I have a computer here, but I don't know how to use it.
I know. It's just a prop.
Yeah. In this thing, I got it. Yeah, I got it a 5 and done.
But you were saying that sometimes they step outside, to get a little taste of something different. And people have said that too. You're talking about meth, but a lot of people are kind of like, they get sick of the boring strip malls and everything looks the same. And somebody said, there's not any diversity.
I think that's kind of a big one too. I really feel.
What was it like in England?
Yeah,
London's very diverse.
It is diverse. It is diverse, but it's London's different because it's very class oriented.
Yes.
So it's less about. Well, it's not less about there's definitely a race component, but it's more about the class component. Whereas here in the States, if you're in the suburbs, you're kind of in a group of folks generally that are socioeconomically the same and not as diverse. Whereas in the city, you really
mixing and matching.
You really get
everybody's all around doing everything, bouncing up and down, right?
Yeah.
Made a lot of sense what I just said.
No one
didn't make any sense.
But I think that's good. I think like growing up with people who are very different from you.
Well, let's get into what the pros and cons of the city are, right?
I mean,
like
so I would say the pros of the suburbs, and I would agree with, because I've seen it with my kids, is the space, silence, and the bikes and the kids flocking from one house is really cool. And
but I don't think that matters. It
tweaks every once in a while. I'm like, oh, that'd be
I think
cool,
with like screens and stuff, even that, there's probably less of that, right? You stay in your house a little bit more and you communicate that way. You don't have to like go to your buddy's house.
Well, there is, and so I believe that the suburbs are kind of really good for a sweet spot. Maybe between 6 and 12.
For an age,
you know what I mean? For an age, because after 12, you're kind of trying to do your own thing and whatnot.
Do your kids take the subway alone?
No, but my daughter takes the subway every day to the city from Brooklyn, there and back.
To the Hat.
No. To New York, Manhattan City. Yeah.
I call it the Hat.
No one does.
So everybody on this goddamn podcast.
Oh my God! Please, everybody, let's shut this down. Let's just close.
That's the end game of the podcast. Actually, is the Trojan horsing my random slang.
Yeah, but she will soon. So she's going to school by herself.
Right?
She goes to school by herself. So she walks. Was it like 15 blocks by herself to school in the morning, or with friends rather, and that's cool. And she's just started to do that now. And then she's in 6th grade. So, and I feel that that's good. I think she should do it. And it
fosters independence.
Fosters independence. Also fosters awareness.
Are you a free range parent?
No, but so when I grew up in the city, I would take the bus, the public transport to school at.
What about the tube?
I was like 11. Yeah, so it was a tube in the bus.
Tube?
Yeah,
I know a lot about London.
I took the 19 and 22 to
Soho.
What's that?
Was your school in the Soho area?
No. It was in St. John's Wood. Well, Knightsbridge and St. John's Wood.
Was it near the Thames?
Nope. No, it wasn't.
Just seeing what other
British terms. You're just naming landmarks at this point.
Well, you've never really opened up to me about your childhood.
That's right, because I like to shut it down, shut it all down.
We'll get it out of you.
But no, so I like that. I like that independence. It fosters, the ability to do thinking.
It fosters the ability to do thinking. You know what? You certainly don't in your house with that kind of fucking.
I don't know what's going on with my brain.
What brain? What brain? The Sandman got at you.
That's true.
Does the prospect of her taking the subway by herself make you nervous?
No, it doesn't.
When was the first time you took the subway? You just said you were like 6.
No, I was probably like 10.
Where did your wife grew up in Connecticut, didn't she?
No, she grew up in Philly, outside Philly.
Oh, right.
Mainline.
But outside though, not in the city.
Not in the city.
And then she went to school in upstate New York. Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, when was the first time she hung out in the city? Probably like during college.
Yeah, it's probably during college.
The summers you guys started to live in the hat. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the experiences you get just interacting with different people. So again, it's not just the friends that you're making at school that are different. It's also the people that you're interacting with. Like quite literally, the people in the subway are their own, its own entity. Yeah. And in a good and bad, in the very best and literally the very worst way.
I've seen some of the very worst.
Yeah.
Believe me.
But to be able to understand how to manage that and to cope and figure out what's going on.
One time I saw a guy on the subway, and he was wearing sweatpants and no shirt, and he was just repeatedly pushing the sweatpants down and then pulling them back up, and then he got off the train and was like walking like Frankenstein doing that. See some freaky stuff.
Oh really? What about Birdman? Do you remember that guy?
I don't think so. Well, who's Birdman?
He had like feathers all over him. And
I've seen that guy.
Like, just scream.
I don't think
that was a real drag. Wow. That was a real drag in the morning. I'll tell you.
Anyway, these are
Suburbs win.
these are some of the cons of. Although in
con.
the suburbs though, you get the guy in the white van driving around offering you candy.
Well, that's
and
that's
also the Slender Man. I think he's a suburban guy. Suburban kind of guy.
I feel like there's more sort of hidden danger, whereas in the city, it seems to me that there's like the people that are very strange are kind of out in the open and they're right there, like Birdman or whatever. This guy pulling his pants down or whatever.
Yep.
How you manage, how to deal with that.
Yes.
Like how to fucking get off the
train
car and get into the
be
next
more
one.
surprised by the nefarious things that are happening in a burb.
Right. Where if
you're caught off guard.
Yeah. I mean, it's just really pretty strange.
Well, you got to watch more David Lynch because he's really poking at the underbelly of the American dream and suburban life. See Blue Velvet, the first scene shows a guy watering his lawn, and then it goes real close up down to the bottom of the grass, and there's like festering bugs fighting each other. Yeah, it's a really kind of a David Lynch in the microcosm right there. You should check out that movie, Blue Velvet.
Great, cool, good times.
Just slams to a halt as I talk about some fucking. If you don't like David Lynch,
does anyone else have a podcast
Mulholland Drive?
Because this is
maybe the best film of the century. Everybody needs to grow up. Most of all, Pete Anderson.
Okay.
All right. So, look, it's very divided. Obviously, I didn't ask. I should have done a poll, and maybe I will, to see where most of my listeners live, where most of our listeners live, in the city or the burbs. Because I got a lot of people who said they live in the rural suburbs, or country living, which is kind of like where my wife grew up, in the middle of absolute nowhere in western Pennsylvania. I've been through there. It is, there's nothing. And then they moved to outside of Charlotte. Yeah. And then she became kind of a city person, which is one of the reasons we're still there. But like Black Velvet Stitches says, she lives in the rural suburbs and she loves it because they have go-karts and fun outdoor toys, but nobody nearby for my son to play with. Yeah. You have to drive everywhere, and that gets old. We have a car now because we have the car from Raleigh, and even we lean on it a little too much just because we have it, and the neighborhood we're in is a little bit further out. But we don't have to, right? And you just hop on the subway. Yeah. When you want to get hammered, that's a big plus of city living, right? Cabs and stuff. You don't have to drive somewhere to drink.
Yeah. I mean, certainly drinking is not drinking and driving is huge, especially when you have kids. It is huge.
It's very important whether you live in the city or the suburbs. Exactly. Folks.
But having play dates that are around the corner.
Yeah,
you know, having kids.
Well, my
that
son
live
is at
in
one
your
right now.
building.
He's at a play date. Yeah.
You know, being able to walk there and have friends right around the corner is great. I mean, that's.
But I mean, you have that in the burbs too. Just maybe not in the
true.
rural suburbs. Like my best friend growing up, all the kids I played with were literally the houses next door to my house.
Yeah.
And like down that street, and there were a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
So like you live in the city, you may or may not have a lot of kids who live near you. It's just kind of luck of the draw sometimes.
Yeah.
My son goes to a school that's not a district school, right? So it's a few neighborhoods away, and kids from all over the place go to it, right? So they're not just kids in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like when I was growing up in the suburbs, we're all on the school bus. We were all going to the same school, you know, for 10 years.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to this.
Somebody said they live in a very small town, and that's one of the worst things about it is that while you can walk everywhere, everybody knows me. This is Funky Fee, who I believe is Barbara Geiger, one of our patrons. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
She's from a small town. She can walk everywhere, but everybody knows me. And then like it's like Groundhog Day, where like everyone's coming up to you and talking to you. Guess what?
That gets kind of old.
In the city, you don't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah,
more people, but nobody cares if you're rude, especially in New York City. Just not rude, just like.
It's not rude.
You put up your barrier.
It's not rude. It's you're just trying to go somewhere.
Yes, you have things to do. People in the burbs don't have anything to do.
And when you stop short suddenly when you're walking, you know, you deserve to.
Yeah, you do.
Die.
God, I hate a slow walker in the city.
Just pull up to the side. That's all you got to do. Just pull up to the side.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what's going on, just move over.
Mama Bluey, actually, when I asked this question on Instagram, I was wearing my favorite scarf, and she just shouted out my scarf. That was her comment. That scarf, right? She didn't put a picture of like a drooling face afterwards, but I'm pretty sure that's what she meant. So thanks, Mama Bluey. I like my scarf too.
Maybe it was like a vomit emoji as well. Like that. God, oh, that's so gross. That scarf that you were wearing. I mean, that's how I was feeling. So maybe.
Have you seen the scarf?
Yeah,
it's fucking wonderful.
It looks like a blanket.
It's cozy. Yeah, it's pretty big.
Like
have you ever seen that picture of Lenny Kravitz wearing a scarf that literally looks like a blanket?
That's what you look like.
Yeah, no, I did a picture of myself side by side. It's actually pretty funny. I'll send it to you since you're not on Instagram.
Yeah.
You're too cool.
Yeah, just mail that to me.
Mail, like the snail mail?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
As they call it? Using the post office?
USPS.
Yeah, that'll get there in a couple of weeks.
Cool. Make sure to look out for it. Yeah, so let's talk about another big thing in the city is all of the stuff that happens in the city. So you get museums.
Yeah, culture.
The culture, yeah.
The events.
I think that's a big part of it, certainly in this city, in Brooklyn and in New York.
Well, how about this one? How about, and this we experienced this in Raleigh, or a lack thereof of good takeout food or delivery. New York City, you get anything you want. If you're, guess what? If you're one of those parents that wants your kid to eat no matter, then maybe you get different meals for everybody. You can do that. You can get like 5 different meals from 5 different places on the same night and have them all get delivered to your house. Technology.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if you're a huge asshole, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Totally.
When we were in Raleigh, it was hard to get good pizza. No, I don't want to make this a New York versus everywhere else thing. But in the suburbs, especially, like there's just a
limited
lot. You
choices.
can get pizza and you get Chinese food, right?
It's the choices aren't as much. But one thing, you know, my 4-year-old loves the Natural History Museum.
Yeah, so does mine.
You know, and we
my 8-year-old.
And we go, you know, whenever.
How often do you go? It's a trek, though. Well, a little easier for you.
It's a little easier for us.
Far from me.
But
we still go 45 minutes on the train.
Generally, the time to go is in the fall through the winter when it's like
we're gonna do your travel guide. See the Pete's Guide to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what else? Episodes from now.
You don't want to do it in the blazing hot sun, you know? Or maybe that.
Or in the winter. I don't know. Depends on where you're from. Maybe you wanna.
Maybe you want to. Either way, you should definitely go because it's awesome.
But you can't go to the Museum of Natural History when you live in the burbs.
No.
Not unless you drive and you pack some shit.
And what's fun is you can kind of space it out. You don't have to take in the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
You go
because you can come back whenever you want because you live in the city with public transportation,
which is nice,
and culture at your fingertips.
Yeah, which is cool.
Right.
Yep. Lincoln
There's no
Center.
culture in the burbs, obviously.
Lincoln Center's right there. Have you been to Lincoln Center recently?
Recently, no.
It's really an excellent, like the architecture, like the space, the physical space is really.
Can I tell you something really cool
amazing.
That you brought up Lincoln Center? So I was at my parents' last weekend in the burbs, suburban Connecticut, and I had heard this story before, but I wanted to get the facts straight. So my dad, when he was for his 40th birthday, my mom took him to the opera for the first time, right in Lincoln Center. In the middle of the opera, they stop it. It's like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. They stop the opera.
And then cold beer here.
No, they stop the opera.
Tearing up.
In the middle of the opera and announce to the crowd that the United States hockey team has just beaten Russia in the Miracle on Ice.
No way.
And the opera crowd goes nuts.
Really?
Yeah. My dad, February 8th, his 40th birthday.
Yeah.
Isn't that fucking cool?
That's
a really cool story, right?
Okay.
It's nothing to do with Burbs versus the city, but you brought up Lincoln Center. It's a cool story.
No, it's
Guess
a
what?
well,
America,
okay.
USA. Do you believe in miracles?
I believe in Kurt Russell.
Oh God, that HBO documentary about the team is so much better than that movie. It's so good. It's one of the best sports documentaries I've ever seen.
Careful, he's a national treasure.
I don't dislike Kurt Russell.
Yeah, you do.
There's a lot of Kurt Russell fans here.
No.
I'm the one who showed my kid Big Trouble in Little China. What are you doing to preserve Kurt's legacy? Nothing.
I'm keeping it for myself. My kids. I'm not sharing Kurt with nobody.
Well, that's a really Ayn Rand way to go.
Yep.
What else do we got?
I don't know.
Gillian Summers was talking about what you said. There's more activities in the burbs and more community, or more activities in the city, but in the burbs, a more community connection.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that
Maybe you lived in the wrong communities in the city. You know.
Maybe. I think there's definitely pros. Like I say, I think that there's a range though. I mean, there's like a really nice age range where I feel like where the
burbs would be better.
Burbs would be better. I mean, I think about it every time I go underneath the BQE, and I'm like, what the fuck is this place?
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes you do get really annoyed at how many people there are when you're like packed into
I'm
the
like
train.
Pushing my kid in a stroller, and there's like broken glass and a pair of underpants, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I mean, why'd your wife leave that out there?
I don't know.
It's fucking disgusting.
What was she doing?
Why
would she break
so
glass
this is what
like that?
Here you go. Here's what Platinum says. He says he lives in San Francisco. He loves all the availability of museums and you can go to the beach and parks, but he hates seeing dog shit, or I guess just shit, and needles. He doesn't like seeing needles.
Yeah, well, I mean,
me neither.
No, I mean that goes along with what I was saying. You know, I mean there is it gets oppressive there are times and places
100%.
Where
like when you're walking on the sidewalk and
like,
a wet drip from somebody's window unit air conditioner falls on your head,
and you're like, what was that?
It usually happens in the hat a lot.
Yeah,
right.
Or when you can walk down the street and identify whether it's urine or an air conditioner drip.
Yeah,
you can immediately you start to get good at that.
Or when you see like vomit on the wall of like a subway or something.
Oh, careful, honey! Don't touch that. That's
exactly.
Human feces.
Keep your kid
Careful.
away. But I do I'll point out rats. Like if there's rats down on the subway,
but that's
tracks,
fun
I'll point out to my kids. Check those things out.
Those are fun to look at.
Yeah, fun.
It's like buys the time.
They're intelligent. They say rats.
Mm-hmm. Especially when
like
they put on a suit and go on the subway. Those
suit?
Yeah, like commuting rats, like just people.
Wow, that was terrible. It was a tortured attempt at some kind of analogy. I don't even know.
Oh, I'm the worst. Okay.
Finally, we agree on something.
Yeah, there you go. So let's see. Are we? I think we got it right. We pretty much covered.
We crushed it.
City.
You know what? I think that's probably the best job we've ever done about anything in our entire lives.
What do we do?
Not just podcasts.
Do we hug or
no.
do we touch? No. What should we do? Should we put our hands together? I don't
know.
Are
we fucking Vulcans? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Everybody can do that.
No, that's not true.
And by that,
it's like rolling your tongue.
Sign. I can't.
It's a fucking. Not everybody can do it.
We're really going on. No, I'm not doing that.
All right.
Because let's just.
If you enjoyed this episode, let us know in the comments on YouTube.
Yeah. Comment. Let us know what's going on.
Calm down, man. You know,
I'm
what
excited.
Are you fucking Ed McMahon? Don't just say yeah. Yes. After everything I say, you can give us money on Patreon. Yeah. Again, we still need a new co-host. This trial run is. It's been brutal.
It's almost up. The free trial. The free trial is almost.
If you have any questions for Pete and what it was like to grow up in London, I'd love to hear them because I'd like to get to the bottom of some of this stuff.
Okay. I'll never tell.
iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. You can get us everywhere.
And again, if you would like to be acknowledged as much as our patrons, who we appreciate so much.
David Tuttle, Phil Mansfield, and Barbara Geiger.
Yes, exactly.
No relation to H.R. Geiger, I assume.
Let's do it.
Well, that would be cool if she were related to him. You know who that is?
The counter guy.
He designed
the Geiger counter.
The monster from Aliens. Alien. Yeah, H.R. Geiger, yeah. Real creepy.
Yeah. That guy was great.
Some good movies.
That was some good movies.
Those first two Alien movies.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.
See ya. Bye-bye.